In the previous episode, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to bow to Nebuchadnezzar's golden image and walked through fire with a fourth figure at their side. Then Nebuchadnezzar himself was driven mad for 7 years, living like a beast until he acknowledged the sovereignty of the Most High. Now decades have passed. Nebuchadnezzar is dead. His empire has weakened, and on the night Babylon falls, there is a party. King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine in front of the 1,000. 1,000 nobles, a royal banquet, wine flowing freely before the entire court. Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded that the vessels of gold and silver that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem be brought, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. The sacred vessels, the cups and bowls taken from the house of God when Jerusalem fell. Objects meant for worship of the Lord, now used for a drinking party. The text calls Nebuchadnezzar his father. In ancient Near Eastern terms, this could mean grandfather or ancestor. The exact genealogy is less important than the contrast. Nebuchadnezzar eventually learned humility. Belshazzar has learned nothing. Then they brought in the golden vessels that had been taken from the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank from holy vessels, wine for revelry in cups meant for sacred offering. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. The desecration is complete. While drinking from vessels of the Lord, they praise gods made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, the very materials of Nebuchadnezzar's dream statue, the kingdoms that will be crushed to powder. Immediately the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace opposite the lampstand. Immediately, a hand. Human fingers, but no arm, no body, just a hand writing on the wall. The lampstand illuminates the scene. The writing is visible to everyone in the great hall, and the king saw the hand as it wrote. Belshazzar watches. The hand moves across the plaster. Letters form. Words appear. Then the king's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him. His limbs gave way, and his knees knocked together. Terror seizes the king. His face goes pale. His legs buckle. His knees shake. The man who moments ago was toasting false gods with sacred vessels now trembles before supernatural writing. The king called loudly to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the astrologers. The same response as Nebuchadnezzar: bring the experts. Find someone who can explain. The king declared to the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. The reward is enormous. Purple robes, golden chains, third in command of the empire. Third, because Belshazzar himself is ruling as co-regent. His father Nabonidus is technically still king. Belshazzar can only offer third place. Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king the interpretation. They fail. They cannot read the words. They cannot explain the meaning. Then King Belshazzar was greatly alarmed, and his color changed, and his lords were perplexed. The color drains further. The alarm intensifies. The lords who were feasting are now confused and afraid. The party has ended. The queen, because of the words of the king and his lords, came into the banqueting hall. The queen enters, not one of the wives or concubines already present, but someone with authority and memory, perhaps the queen mother, someone who remembers the previous reign. The queen declared, "O king, live forever. Let not your thoughts alarm you or your color change." She speaks to calm him, to remind him that there is hope. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. In the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, enchanters, Chaldeans, and astrologers. The queen knows Daniel's history. She remembers what he did for Nebuchadnezzar. Light, understanding, wisdom like the gods. Because an excellent spirit, knowledge, and understanding to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve problems were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. She uses both names, Daniel, his Hebrew name, Belteshazzar, his Babylonian name. She knows his full identity. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. Daniel enters, an old man now. He has served through the reigns of Nebuchadnezzar and his successors. He has watched empires shift and kings rise and fall. The king answered and said to Daniel, "You are that Daniel, one of the exiles of Judah, whom the king my father brought from Judah." One of the exiles, still after all these decades identified by where he came from. The conquered people, the captives. I have heard of you that the spirit of the gods is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the enchanters, have been brought in before me to read this writing and make known to me its interpretation. But they could not show the interpretation of the matter. Everyone else has failed. You are the last hope. But I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around your neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. The same offer. Purple, gold, power. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, "Let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another." Daniel refuses the payment. He will interpret, but not for hire. Nevertheless, I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation. But first, a history lesson. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father kingship and greatness and glory and majesty. God gave. The same phrase from the beginning. All power comes from the Most High. And because of the greatness that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he killed, and whom he would, he kept alive. Whom he would, he raised up, and whom he would, he humbled. Nebuchadnezzar's power was absolute, life and death at his command. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was hardened so that he dealt proudly, he was brought down from his kingly throne, and his glory was taken from him. He was driven from among the children of mankind, and his mind was made like that of a beast. His dwelling was with the wild donkeys. He was fed grass like an ox, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, until he knew that the Most High God rules the kingdom of mankind and sets over it whom he will. The full story. The 7 years of madness. The beast in the field. The lesson learned through humiliation. And you, his son Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, though you knew all this. You knew. The accusation is devastating. Belshazzar is not ignorant. He has heard the stories. He knows what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. He has no excuse. But you have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven, and the vessels of his house have been brought in before you, and you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine from them. The desecration is named, the Lord of heaven, the vessels of his house. used for drunken blasphemy. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or know. But the God in whose hand is your breath, and whose are all your ways, you have not honored. You praised the dead gods. You ignored the living one. Then from his presence the hand was sent, and this writing was inscribed. And this is the writing that was inscribed: Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin. 4 words, or 3 with 1 repeated. Daniel explains each. This is the interpretation of the matter. Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Numbered, finished, your time is up. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Weighed, measured, evaluated, and found insufficient, lacking, deficient, found wanting, the phrase that echoes through history. Measured against divine standards, he works all day to find a way out. Then these men came by agreement to the king and said to the king, Know, O king, that it is a law of the Medes and Persians that no injunction or ordinance that the king establishes cannot be changed. They press. The law cannot change. The king cannot save Daniel. Then the king commanded, and Daniel was brought and cast into the den of lions. No escape. The law demands. Daniel is thrown to the beasts. The king declared to Daniel, May your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you. The king speaks hope he cannot enforce. Your God, the one you serve continually. Perhaps he can do what I cannot. And a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords, that nothing might be changed concerning Daniel. Sealed, official, unchangeable. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No diversions were brought to him, and sleep fled from him. The king does not eat. He cannot sleep. He lies awake, thinking of Daniel in the darkness with the lions. Then at break of day, the king arose and went in haste to the den of lions. At first light, he rushes to the den. As he came near to the den where Daniel was, he cried out in a tone of anguish, not knowing what he will find. O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? The question that matters. Has your God been able? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. He is alive. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him, and also before you, O king, I have done no harm. The lions' mouths are shut. An angel sent. Daniel is unharmed, blameless before God, innocent before the king. Then the king was exceedingly glad, and commanded that Daniel be taken up out of the den. Joy replaces anguish. Daniel is lifted out. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no kind of harm was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. Like the 3 in the furnace, no harm, not because of luck or chance, because he trusted in his God. And the king commanded, and those men who had maliciously accused Daniel were brought and cast into the den of lions, they, their children, and their wives. The accusers received the fate they planned for Daniel. And before they reached the bottom of the den, the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces. The lions are hungry. They were restrained from Daniel by divine power. Now they are released. Then King Darius wrote to all the peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, Peace be multiplied to you. A decree, like Nebuchadnezzar's decree after the furnace, after the madness. I make a decree that in all my royal dominion people are to tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom shall never be destroyed, and his dominion shall be to the end. The living God, enduring forever, kingdom never destroyed. Another pagan king confesses what the exiles have always known. He delivers and rescues. He works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. He who has saved Daniel from the power of the lions. He delivers. He rescues. He works wonders. He saved Daniel. So this Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Daniel prospers through empire after empire, king after king. The exile from Judah, the servant of the living God, the man who prayed toward Jerusalem even when it meant death. He has outlived Babylon. He will see Persia. He will receive visions that span centuries. But that is for the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode about the writing on the wall and Daniel in the lion's den. If this story of divine judgment on arrogance and deliverance of the faithful has moved you, please consider subscribing and sharing this series with others. In the final episode of this series, Daniel receives apocalyptic visions of beasts and kingdoms, thrones and judgment, a Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven.